Alrighty, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Tuesday today. Overall markets dropping here in the after hours and pre-market. Kind of talk about Palantir and how that kind of affected the overall markets. Now you can see we're coming back down towards the gap fills here on the higher time frames from a few weeks ago. We'll talk about the key things kind of moving forward. We also do have AMD earnings as well. So that's kind of been the theme as I talked about over the weekend and also yesterday as well, right? AI has been kind of the major theme leading the markets the past couple of weeks. So that's why some of these key names that do have earnings like Palantir, anything that has to do with AI, right? NVIDIA, all the semiconductors, right? That's going to be fairly important for really the overall markets. And as you can see right now, we're basically back down towards key levels. Okay. What's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. Let me grab some water here and then we'll get started. First things first, what's up? What's up? Let's go on to the earnings calendar. So we still have a decent amount of earnings coming up. The main ones today, at least, as you can see, AMD. So we have AMD earnings that is going to be today after close. Currently, right now, we have Uber, Shopify in the morning. We have a few other ones, right? SMCI. And then tomorrow, we have Robinhood. And then on Thursday, a couple other ones as well, right? Open and a few other ones. But yeah, MP Materials, a few other tickers. But the key one today is going to be AMD, which is going to be after close. At least coming into today, for the overall markets, let's go on to the higher time frames. So as you can see here for the ES and really the overall NQ, we're kind of pulling back down in towards this gap fill that we have created, which was last week, or sorry, 2 weeks ago, where we had this gap up in the market. If you go into the NQ, you can see overall markets, we're kind of just staying heavy, right? Key levels that we have marked out really yesterday was fairly clear. It was this FOMC low. I talked about this being a super key level here in the overall markets. If we can maintain above your FOMC low, we can see a potential push towards the upside. I talked about if we maintain underneath, then we could see a move lower. Now, as you can see right off the bat, price really got underneath this FOMC low, held underneath your FOMC low, and then never got back above. Markets really was staying quite heavy here for the ES and the NQ. We didn't really see any bullish price action whatsoever. Never broke back above your previous day highs. And now you can see the market kind of dropping here in the after hours and in the pre-market here as well. But at least coming to market open now, as you can see, we already filled this major gap on the higher time frames. Now we're just coming back to its higher time frame retest level, which is just your previous all-time highs. So for the ES moving forward, we're actually now back down in towards key levels of support, which is essentially the area that we broke down from, which is this news candle high here as well, back from tariffs. This was all the way from October the 11th, if I'm not mistaken. But now this is a key level here on the higher time frames, specifically looking at this on the daily chart. If you want to see some more upside, right, we like to see really the higher lows be built off this 6,800 level for this potential continuation higher. If we break underneath, then potentially we can see a break of structure towards the downside. But currently right in towards a key level coming into this morning. So as I mentioned, key level previous all-time highs, 6810 is going to be key coming into today. If we can maintain above this level, potentially we can see a mini reversal here in the markets, back up in towards your 6840. If we break underneath, then we're going to see this push back towards the downside. As for the SPY chart, fairly similar here. As you can see, we have the top of the gap, which is your last, sorry, not your last Friday. This was 2 Fridays ago high, which is your 648. And we also have your 674, which is your previous all-time highs. As you can see, we have multiple touches. So currently gapping down here in the overall markets, we're going to have marked out today is just going to be your 678. And we're also going to mark out now, it's going to be your previous all-time highs. So for the SPY coming into today, you can see pretty big gap down here in the overall markets. If you want to see any sort of mean reversion, really it's going to be above your 678 and to hold above that level. Another possible scenario, we come all the way back down in towards your previous all-time highs and buyers step in essentially off this level for the SPY. So keep an eye out on your 678 along with your 673. As for shorts, pop and fade is potentially in play off your 678. Another possible scenario, I think this short's going to be a little bit more difficult. I'd much rather look for the pop and fade off your 678, but you could also be looking for the short underneath. Now it's going to be this 674 previous all-time highs. So that's what we have marked out. Let me actually just change this color here as well. So that's what we have for the SPY coming to market open. If you do want to short any indice, any major indice, right, preferably you want to short the SPY compared to the Qs, just because the SPY has been a lot weaker than the Qs for the past 2 weeks. All right, let me go on to the NQ chart here now as well. Okay, so for the Qs, right, similar thing right here. What we have is this gap here in the overall market. So we gapped up 2 weeks ago, had a nice rally towards the upside. Then we had FOMC, as I talked about, which was very key news event. And now you can see we're staying heavy. So we had that nice rally, right? The reason why the market's reversing, because we had FOMC last week, we had also other news events as well with, of course, now Palantir earnings, and now this is dropping towards the downside. For the overall markets now, NQ, your key level support is going to be basically this gap fill high, which is your 25,700. See a little bit of buyers stepping in here in the pre-market, but ultimately, if we break underneath, we're going to come right back down in towards this full gap fill, which is your 25,550. So this is a key level coming to today here for the NQ. I can turn this back on here now and go back onto the 15-minute time frame. So overall market tape has been bearish coming into this morning. We'll see if the market wants to potentially continue down and towards that full gap fill. But as I mentioned, if you want to see some shorts, right, I'd say shorts are in play underneath your Friday's low. So as long as you maintain underneath your Friday's lows, you're going to lean a little bit more neutral towards the downside, at least coming to market open. Another possible scenario underneath, now it's going to be this 25,700 for this potential push down in towards your full gap fill, which is going to be this 25,560. As for longs, really the only long scenario is going to be the hold above your 25,700 higher lows, and you like to see kind of this mean reversion back up and towards your Friday's lows. And then, of course, the higher time frame long is going to be right the reclaim back above, which would be this 25,800. Let's go on to the Qs. As you can see right here, this is the gap that we have created here in the overall markets. All right, gap up last Monday, Tuesday. Now you can see we're about to gap down here. And we do have a little bit of room, which is this full gap fill, as you can see. You turn back on the drawings, right? Key levels coming into this morning. You can actually just draw this out here as well. It's going to be your 624 along with this Friday's low. This is actually a big level. But yeah, coming into today here for the Qs, the key levels that I have marked out is going to be this 624. It's basically the bottom of this gap fill. If we reject, then we can see a potential push down towards your pre-market lows and below, which is just going to be that full gap fill towards the downside, right? So keep an eye out on your 624. That's going to be the key line in the sand today for the overall markets. If we maintain underneath 624 here on the Qs, we can see some more downside back down towards your pre-market lows and potentially this full gap fill. If we reclaim with strong price action right off the bat, potentially we can see a move right back up and towards your Friday's lows of last week. So keep this in mind here for the Qs coming to market open. As I mentioned, that's going to be your key level for today. And now let's go on to some tech names. So with the overall markets, Basically, ever since we had FOMC last Wednesday, at least for the tech wise, right? SPY and Qs have kind of been inside this range. We're finally breaking towards the downside here now. But as for tech, we haven't had too many nice opportunities. We've had some nice higher time frame setups like Nvidia yesterday and Tesla, but besides that, a lot of these tech names have been pulling back, or they've been just kind of mean reversing with the overall market here as well. But all right, I am going to go over some of the tech names here as well. If you guys do have any tickers or any charts you'd like me to go over, you guys can drop in the chat now. Alrighty. What's up, everyone? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. All right, let me go over some of these tech names and I'll go over the names you guys put in the chat. All right, first things first, what we have here is Nvidia. Talked about this one yesterday. Nice push higher, potential bear bull flag forming, and we had some nice continuation. Took a little bit longer, but held above your key levels, which was your previous day highs. I personally wanted to see a push up and towards our all-time highs, but came very close. And then you can see rejected, overall market dropping here as well. And now we're pushing right back down in towards all the way back down in towards this 202. So at least coming to market open here for Nvidia key levels, really this 202 level of support. We're gapping down into a key level of support. So at least today, you like to see kind of the buyer step in here off this level of support, potential push back up in towards your 207, sorry. If you want to see some more downside, now it's going to be underneath this 202, hold underneath and push back lower. As for Tesla, this one looked really good in my opinion, but unfortunately was not able to close above its key level that it had to, which was this daily high, 470.75. As you can see, nice push towards the upside yesterday, but what it needed to do was close above this key high, which was your 470, sorry, it was your 472. If we could close above your 472, potential continuation higher, ultimately was not able to close above, and now you can see we're having a little bit of reaction, and now we're opening up right around your 456. So for at least Tesla, I mean, not really too much to talk about here. Now gapping down into basically equilibrium, into this general area from the week prior. So for Tesla moving forward, just keep an eye out on key levels, right? Previous day lows, 460, and your 450 as well. So for Tesla, if you want to see upside, hold above your 454, potential another possible scenario above your 460. If you want to see some downside, right, rejection, or now underneath your 454 for a pushback lower. Sorry, I'm just grabbing some water here. But as for Apple, we had earnings last week, kind of similar to Palantir. I was cautious, right? Whenever you have this big pop up and you sell off either in the pre-market or day number one, you want to be a lot more cautious. We'll talk about Palantir here in a second, but for Apple, now what I expect to happen is it to gravitate down in towards your earnings low, which is your 464. What I like to see, pop and fade, push down in towards your 264, sorry. And then I want to see if the buyers will step in off this general area. So key level coming into market open, you have your 269, and they can mark out right previous day lows, and also this 264 here as well, right? Potential pop and fade. This would be the best scenario for a push down in towards your 264 and below. Another possible scenario, I don't like this one as much, but underneath your previous day lows, you can see some more downside as well. All right, let's talk about an AMD here. So for AMD, early key levels coming to market open. Kind of have this range drawn out. We also do have earnings as well later into today. So this one's been consolidating for the past few weeks. Now potentially it's actually trying to break underneath its low of the range coming into market open. So at least for today for AMD, I wouldn't touch this one just because it does have earnings, but underneath 253. Next level support down in towards your 250 and below. But as I mentioned, earnings in the after hours, so nothing today really matters pre-earnings. Let's go on to Amazon. As for Amazon, the key levels I had marked out yesterday was our 254. We had some pop with OpenAI right off the bat. Ultimately, didn't really do too much. And now you can see dropping a little bit here in the pre-market. So for the levels coming to market open, 248. If you can maintain above your 248, potentially higher lows are going to be built. Yeah, that's really about it here on Amazon. Nice hold of this 248. If you want to see some shorts, I think shorts are going to be a little bit more difficult. Earnings gap up, higher lows are still in play. Potentially maybe like a pop and fade off your 254, which I don't like as much, or maybe if price stays heavy. Underneath this 248, you can see some more downside. So yeah, a lot of these ones mean reversing after earnings, similar to Google here, key levels, earnings day low, which is just your 280. If you can see yesterday, nice hold of it, but now we're underneath it. You like to see pop and fade underneath 280. If you want to see some upside, reclaim back above 280 for a potential push higher. As for Microsoft, similar thing. All right, earnings drop. Now the key levels that we have marked out is going to be this 516. Broke underneath it. Now what you like to see, pop, fade, to head towards the downside. If you want to see some upside, reclaim back above this 516 for a potential move back towards your 524. Okay. As for Meta, key levels that we have is really this 650. We can also mark out your previous day low as well. But basically for Meta, this one, you can see big drop with earnings, and now we're continuing lower. Overall market pushing back towards the downside here as well. Now for Meta, we have a bunch of more objectives, and we can expect this one to essentially be the leader towards the downside just because this one started showing weakness before the market dropped. So as for Meta, key levels that we can have marked out, previous day lows along with this 650. Pop and fade is in play off your 650. And also this 635 here point as well. Okay, as for Netflix, really not too much as well. Splits coming up as well, but as you can see, kind of this pop, big drop lower with earnings. First pop is now getting shorted towards the downside. Now let's keep an eye out on this key low, which is your April 10th. Right, if you can maintain above, we can see some continuation higher, but ultimately this probably is going to head lower underneath your key pivot low, which is your 1090. Okay. If you guys do have any charts or any tickers as well, you guys can now drop them in the chat. I'll go over them for the next probably 5 to 10 minutes here. Let me grab some water. Palantir dropping nicely. Alrighty. What's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. Let me go over Palantir. I'm going to answer some questions here as well. Why many good news for Nvidia but won't go up? Just because overall market kind of extended here. FOMC. Nvidia is basically at all-time highs. I wouldn't say it's not going up as much. This one's at all-time highs. It just came really, it was at all-time highs yesterday. If price breaks back below the no trade zone, consolidation reclaims the no trade again. Shall we go long since we have a structure shift? Or is that no trade zone still valid? Now it would be different because now we filled the gap. So if the overall markets, we want to trade this back higher. This was originally kind of our no trade zone, which was our FOMC high. And kind of this general area here as well. Now we've broken underneath. We can be looking for trading opportunities because either the short for this full gap fill towards the downside. But now, right, if we can also be looking for longs off your full gap fill high. And now we can look to kind of trade this back towards the upside. If it comes right back into this general area, probably similar thing as you mentioned. It's going to be a little bit trickier, but now we're outside of it. So we can be looking for trades in this general area right here. Michael Burry, yeah, that's correct. Okay, let me go over Palantir. So Palantir yesterday, we had earnings in the after hours, big pop, ultimately faded towards the downside just due to the guidance that we had. And now you can see we're back down at key levels. So really for Palantir coming to market open, if you look at this on the hourly chart, it still is fairly bullish. It was inevitable that this one's going to pull back, but as you can see, what we have is just this key level support, 188. What I like to see here on the hourly chart is if buyers want to step in here off this 188, which is your previous resistance, now you like to turn into support. Break underneath your 188, you can see a little bit of a bigger push lower. So coming into market open, keep an eye out on this 192 along with this 188. Palantir, I'm not interested in day one reversal earnings back towards the upside. In my opinion, this would much rather be a pop and fade towards the downside instead of trying to look for a reversal on this 192 along with this 195. As for a few other tickers here, let's go over these ones. AVGO. So a lot of these semis are pulling back. If you look at the SMH, right, similar thing, SMH still fairly bullish, but we do have this gap fill towards the downside here as well. Similar game plan to the SPY and Qs, very much well potentially could fill this gap towards the downside if we are not able to maintain above this key level, which is now your 356. Let's draw this one out. So we can draw out this key level support, 356. If we can maintain, we can see a potential push back towards the upside. If we consolidate, break underneath, then as I mentioned, potentially you can see a bit of a move lower. All right, let me go over a few more tickers here. As for Oracle, key levels that we had was actually this gap fill not too long ago, and now we're filling it back towards the downside here based off the daily chart. As you can see, we talked about Oracle showing a little bit more weakness. Right now it's right at this key level of support. Ultimately, the next level is going to be this full gap fill down in towards your 240. So for Oracle, at least coming to market open, key levels that we have drawn out is your previous day lows. In this case, it is your 258. So 258, as long as you maintain underneath 258, 245, which is your full gap fill, is in play here for Oracle. Sorry, it's your 243.23. So that's your next key level towards the downside. Let's go over a couple more other semis. You can see some of the semis showing a little bit of weakness. Overall, MU and TSM still holding up very nicely for Hood. Even this ticker is holding up fairly nicely compared to the overall markets. Key level for hood now is just going to be your really the level I have marked out is your previous kind of all-time highs. We can actually just readjust this one now to where we have multiple touches. It is going to be your 142. So multiple touches here. Currently we're underneath it, pop and fade underneath your 142 for continuation lower. If you want to see a reclaim, back above, hold for this continuation higher. So far holding up still fairly nicely compared to the overall markets. But yeah, so far with the overall markets kind of pulling back here now with the major indices along with kind of Palantir earnings here. Really what you kind of want to be focusing on is really primarily the SPY and Qs themselves. Ultimately, because if the SPY and Qs drops, there's a good chance that your ticker is going to drop as well, just based off where the market's at right now and based off its pulling back. So if you're going to look to trade something, you probably want to trade primarily the SPY and Qs itself. As for the tech side, as I mentioned, you only want to trade these ones if they have any sort of higher time frame setup. But for the overall markets now, as I mentioned, this gap fill here is going to be key coming to market open. If we can hold this gap, potentially we can see a reversal back up and towards your Friday's highs. If we break underneath this gap once again, I think there's a possibility we can see your full gap fill towards the downside. Right, for SPY, we already filled the gap yesterday. Key level is your previous all-time highs, as you can see here. If we can hold this level, similar game plan, potential push back up and towards your key levels, break back underneath. We can see some more downside here on the overall markets. So coming into today, let's keep an eye out on your previous all-time highs on both the SPY and the Qs. As for my main watches today, it's really just going to be the overall indices themselves. I'm more interested in looking for this potential gap fill trade towards your 618, or if it could reclaim, there's a little bit of room, but potential mean reversion back up and towards your 626. At least for this side here on the tech side, NVIDIA, potential kind of reversal off your 202. Of course, the break underneath is in play for the break and retest underneath your the break and retest underneath your 202 is also in play. As for Tesla, not too much to talk about, kind of just back inside this range here. As for Apple, potential pop and fade off your 269. AMD has earnings tonight, so I'd be a little bit more cautious on this one. But at least for long setups, I don't see too many nice long setups that I like. At least for momentum wise, a lot of these ones would just be mean reversions and they would just be gap fills back higher, which would take a little bit longer just based off where the overall market's at currently. So a lot more neutral coming to market open, at least on the higher time frames. As for intraday price action, so far, of course, we are leaning more bearish just because of the gap down that we do have. But I'll just be a little bit more cautious. I don't really like now with the overall market flipping. I'll just be a lot more open to playing both sides of the markets. But besides that, yeah, I'll just be a little bit more cautious. We'll probably focus in here on Palantir as well, just because we had earnings yesterday. So we can expect a lot of volatility right off the bat. But as for Palantir, if I do like this one for potential pop and fade, it is either going to be off your 193 or the pop and fade off your 195 for a push down in towards this 188. So my top watch today is going to be the SPY and Qs themselves for the potential gap fill. And then I'm going to keep an eye out on Palantir just because we had earnings yesterday. And I do expect a decent amount of volatility in this session here for this one. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today. Yeah, that's going to be it for me today. I'm going to grab some water here. Ran out of water, but yeah, hopefully you guys did enjoy that. If you did, appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the watch list, that of course is in the description below. And then I will see you guys all tomorrow. All right. Take care, everyone. Peace.